Namaste, sir. And I welcome on behalf of CLC Oro University to all of you, to Oro University members, as well as the members who are traveling together in the journey led by Dr. Sharad Joshi ji for Divine Life, through Life Divine. It's a pleasure that all of you are joining, which is not easy task in a way. I'll start with like what Walt Whitman says. Do I contradict myself? Yes, very well. I do. I contradict myself. I am large and I contain multitude. We all will agree with this statement. Human life is full of contradictions and it faces opposites outside of itself too. In life, he strives for immortality and faces death, looks for happiness and finds pain and suffering. Man starts to think deeply. He contemplates and he encounters just opposites in the world. Many times he dismisses these ideals as impractical and impossible, but they keep on coming up until they realize these ideals are God, light, freedom, and immortality. That is what we discussed in chapter 1. And if we look carefully and deeply, this seems to be very method of nature, creating contradictions and resolving them into harmony. For essential, it is Sri Aurobindo says, for essentially all nature seeks harmony, life and matter in their own sphere, as much as mind in the arrangement of its perceptions. Sri Aurobindo establishes that all problems are ultimately the harmonizations of opposites, making compatible the incompatible. The problem is created by the gap he addresses between the imperfect limited actual and the perfect unlimited possibilities. But nature has already achieved the harmonization of matter and life by creating living creatures. It has also solved the problem of putting consciousness and will into matter by creating man. But the materialist negation denies spirit and affirms that only matter or force is real. So today, what is materialist negation and what is ascetic negation? We will be, looking forward for some answer from Dr. Sharad Joshi ji. I welcome, sir, to you. Let us take us to the journey with you. Thank you so much. Please.
Namaskar. Sri Aurobindo begins with the second and the third chapter, and the title is The Two Negations. There is a two contradictory existence, force of existence, and that is one is spirit and another is matter. So matter and spirit are the two extremes of the existence, and they are so contradictory to each other that either we should accept the matter as reality or accept the spirit as reality and try to reconcile them in an integral approach. But that integral approach requires so much so that there has to be some ascending series between the two. So I will go through this. I have made some points in the words of Sri Aurobindo and quoted them so that we can succinctly go through his arguments. The affirmation of a life divine upon earth and an immortal sense in mortal existence. See, the material existence is a mortal existence. The spirit is an immortal substance or existence, can have no base unless we recognize not only the eternal spirit as the inhabitant of this body dimension. Ultimately, we are talking all these things for the purpose of human being. And human being has got a spirit as well as body. So the body has in its core the spirit. So mortal existence can have no base unless we recognize not only eternal spirit as the inhabitant of this bodily dimension, the wearer of this mutable garb, mutable robe, but accept matter of which it is made as a fit and noble material out of which he weaves constantly his garbs, builds recurrently the unending series of his mansions. So matter can be viewed as a garb which the spirit has adopted to manifest itself, because ultimately spirit manifests itself in forms, and the forms is a material body or the matter, and so he expresses himself through matter. We say in the very language of those ancient writings, matter also is Brahman. Annam Brahmeti Vijanat. Shabindu has quoted this from the Taittiriya Upanishad in the Bhrigu. Bhrigu approaches his father and says that Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Brahman ka instruction dijiye mujhe. So then the father says, Tapasa Brahma Vijignasasva. By ascesis, you realize the Brahman. Then Bhrigu goes and makes the ascesis, goes through the penance, goes through this discipline, and then comes and reports to his father that Annam Brahmeti Vijanat. Matter is Brahman, because out of matter, Brahman, Annadvai Khalvimani Bhutani Jayanti Annena Jatani Jivanti Annam Brayanti Abhisamishanti. The Annedi Annam Brahmeti Vijanat. Then the father says, you further go ahead and do another further penance, further ascesis, and then you come back again. But ultimately, what it means is that matter is also Brahman. This is what has been established in the Mundaka Upanishad also. Tapasa chiyate brahma tato annam abhijayate. Brahman is, energized, and then the matter is created. So it is matter is manifesting out of the Brahman, and so matter is also Brahman. So this kind of identification is established in the Upanishadic law. And the physical universe is described as the external body of the divine being, Vaishwanara. So universe is described as a divine being, body, external body of the divine being. This is what Sri Krishna shows to Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But this identification between matter and Brahman is of not convincing to the rational intellect if he refuses of that link between mind and supermind, and that grades are between the spirit and matter. So these are the 7 words we have been talking about: Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. And that matter, above matter, there is a vital thing, life. Above life, there is a mind, and above mind, there is a supermind, and the worlds of Sachidananda. So spirit and matter, spirit descends from Sachidananda through supermind to mind, life, and body, or material things. The matter rises, evolves out of matter, mind, and the Sachidananda. So these are the ascending and descending series, and there the matter and spirit, come together, or they can be explained in terms of the other. If we assert only the pure spirit and a mechanical, unintelligent substance or energy, calling one God or soul and the other nature, the inevitable end will be that we shall either deny God or else turn from nature. For both thought and life, a choice then becomes imperative. So Purusha and Prakriti, these are passive Brahman and the mechanical energy. These are contradictory to each other. And therefore, either thought should accept it or remember that one can be explained in terms of the other, and life also. Then for thought and life, then we have to make a choice between the Brahman or the passive Purusha and the uh, thought comes to deny the one as an illusion of the imagination, the other as an illusion of the senses. So when thinking is adopted, or when one thinks about it, we can say that the spirit is an illusion of imagination. People, from the material point of view, people imagine that there is a Brahman, and we say that, okay, there is an illusion of the senses. By the illusion of senses, we feel that the material universe is substantial, is concrete, but then that is an illusion of senses. So either we accept the Brahman, or we reject the Brahman, or we reject the matter. Life comes to fix. This is about the thinking, the philosophy, or whatever thinking we adopt. Life comes to fix on an immaterial and flee from itself in a disgust of a self-forgetting ecstasy. So life either goes and enjoys the ananda of the Brahman, or it forgets about its own immortality in the life, in the world, life itself, the life in the world. So life comes to fix on the immaterial and flee from itself in a disgust of a self-forgetting ecstasy, or else to deny its own immortality in the body, in the world, in the material domain, and take its orientation away from God and towards the animal. So these are the two, thought can deny, either make a choice, life can also has to make a choice. The Shankara's worldless inactive self and his Maya of many names and forms are equally disparate and irreconcilable entities. Their rigid antagonism can terminate only by the dissolution of the multitudinous illusion into the sole truth of an eternal silence. The Kevaladvaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya says, starting from Gaudabadacharya, that the world does not exist. The world is an illusion of the senses. Only Brahman exists. So that is, the multiplicity is denied. Only Ekemeva Dvitiyam Brahma, the unity of the Brahman is accepted. The materialist has an easier field. It is possible. Now, when we make the choice either between the materialist or between the ascetics, so let us say we first make the viewpoint of materialist. The materialist has an easier field. It is possible for him, by denying spirit, to arrive at a more readily convincing simplicity of statement, the real monism, the monism of matter. Everywhere we see around us in the material universe is a matter. And so matter only exists. So we can say it is the monism of matter, or else of force, because matter does not exist. Matter is an outcome from force. And therefore, we can say either the monism of matter or the monism of force. He ends by positing an unknown as inert, as remote from the known universe as the passive Purusha or the silent Brahman. Because the force we do not see, the force through which in the inconscient, the matter is created, that force we do not see, and therefore we say that it is unknown. So the material universe reduces into the force, and the force we do not see its origin, we do not see as a, we cannot recognize from the point of view of senses, and therefore we say that the inert, the remote from the known universe, and the passive Purusha or the silent Brahman. Thought seeks always a complete affirmation. It can find it only by the luminous reconciliation. But our aspiration, our thinking deeper and deeper, we want some kind of a reconciliation, a harmony. And these affirmation and harmony, thought always seeks from the time immemorial. And so it tries to reconcile the two antagonists, matter and spirit. Thought must arrive at the repose of ultimate unity without denying the energy of the expressive multiplicity. So if we want to arrive at some kind of harmony, then this unity must be the unity in the multiplicity. If we see in every domain, mind, life, and material universe, we see this everywhere. You see at the mental domain, we see that the general characteristic of mind is the same, but then each individual mind is working within that limit differently. So there is a unity of mental power, which is common to all human beings or in the Prakriti. But then each mind works differently. So there is a unity of mind and a multiplicity of mind simultaneously. Similarly, on the vital plane, there is emotions. The vital plane is working in the same manner in everybody, but then each works in each one differently. Similarly, material universe, if we say, even it is said that on a tree, you cannot have two leaves with the same kind of a sinews in it. Or we know that in our own body, the general outline of the body is the same, but each one has its own different body, so much so that we can identify the person by his, thumb, the sinews on the thumb. Only in such a complete and Catholic affirmation can all the multiform and apparently contradictory data of existence be harmonized. And the manifold conflicting forces which govern our thought and life discover the central truth which they are here to symbolize and variously fulfill. But then the recognition has not been achieved. It is necessary. But when that recognition is not achieved, it is necessary and helpful that man should test separately in their extreme assertion each of the two great opposites. So if we cannot harmonize in our thought or in our experience, then what we have to do is let us adopt the two separate lines and go to the extremes and see what the spirit has to tell us and what the matter has to tell us. So then we have to test both the opposites and come to some kind of understanding. It is therefore of good augury that after many experiments and verbal solutions, we should now find ourselves standing today in the presence of the two that have alone borne the long and most rigorous test of experience. Both spirit has been experienced by people and the material world is our day-to-day experience. The two extremes, and that at the end, the experience both should have, which the universal instinct in mankind, that veiled judge, sentinel, and representative of the universal spirit of truth, refuses to accept as right or as satisfying. So ultimately, the veiled judge should come and find out whether this is right or to what extent we can reconcile the matter and the spirit. In Europe and in India, respectively, the negation of the materialist and the refusal of the ascetic have sought to assert themselves as the sole truth and to dominate the conception of life. In Europe, it is the denial of the materialist. That is, they do not accept the spirit, or they do not readily accept the spirit as the ultimate goal of life or behind the material universe. They only recognize the matter only as a reality. Whereas ascetics in India, they take delight in the Brahman, but they say that material universe does not exist because it is an illusion. So that is the refusal of the ascetic. They have sought to assert themselves as the sole truth and to dominate the conception of life. In India, if the result has been a great, now Sharad says that what are the advantages of the Indian viewpoint and what of the spirit, or some of them, we know that in India, there are so many people who have experienced the Brahman, and in India, the result has been a great heaping up of the treasures of the spirit. We know and we have experienced the spirit. There are shining witnesses or the thousands of yogis and seers and those things who have experienced the spirit. Or some of them, it has been a great bankruptcy of life. We are deficient in our life because we say that matter is, it's an illusion. If it is not an illusion, we say that it is a field of ignorance or it is a field of death. And so nothing can be done about the material universe and the life in the material universe. So we flee from life. In Europe, the fullness of riches and the triumphant mastery of this world's powers and possessions have progressed towards an equal bankruptcy in the things of the spirit. So they do not recognize the spirit. They have not experienced the spirituality. I mean, they have not experienced the spirit behind the whole thing. They are occupied with the day-to-day life of the universe and proficiency, efficiency, and worldly pursuits. The denial of the materialist, though more insistent, the denial of the materialist, though more insistent and immediately successful, because we know that it can be seen or it can be experienced by the senses. It is an objective truth. The denial of the materialist, although more insistent and immediately successful, more facile in its appeal to the generality of mankind. It is more facile because we know that behind the matter there is something. The matter is not the only thing. The external expressions are not the only thing. There is something behind it. So the generality of mankind does not accept it, is yet less enduring, less effective finally than the absorbing and perilous refusal of the ascetic. But the refusal of the ascetic to recognize the life or to recognize the matter as a reality is more perilous and more absorbing because they are delighted. They experience delight in the Brahman and they flee from life. There are in the universe knowable realities beyond the range of the senses, and in man, powers and faculties which determine rather than are determined by the material organs through which they hold themselves in touch with the world of the senses. That other shell of our true and complete existence, the premise of the materialist agnosticism, disappears. If the materialist insists that matter is the only reality we have, but then we know that in the material world there are forces, and these forces transcend the material domain. and they are only recognized by life and mind and the inner spirit. So if we accept this, then the premise of the materialist agnosticism disappears. We have to modify the viewpoint of the materialist. It is well that we should recognize the enormous and indispensable utility of the very brief period of rationalistic materialism through which humanity has been passing. But at the same time, if there are deficiencies in the materialistic view, we should accept the enormous service that the materialistic view has rendered to the humanity. It is well that we should recognize the enormous and indispensable utility of the very brief period of rationalistic materialism through which humanity is passing. Today also we can say that more or less the materialism is on the rise. It became necessary for a time to take a clean sweep at once of the truth and its disguise, in order that the road might be clear for a real departure, a new departure and a super advance. The rationalistic tendency of materialism has done mankind this great service. You see, we know the history of Europe. In the 11th and 12th century, there was the rule of the church. And the rule of the church had a lot of misgivings. There were a lot of, misunderstandings about the spirit. They were superstitious, and the persecutions and all those things started. And then Renaissance came. And after Renaissance, there was a rule of reason. And rule of reason gave a clear-cut view that whatever the reason accepts, that is the truth. And so that was necessary, and that is the beginning of the modern era. That is the beginning of, the general spirit of the materialism. And that is necessary to have a clean sweep about the whole thing that was prevalent at that time. It is necessary, therefore, that the advancing knowledge should base herself on clear, pure, and disciplined intellect. The intellect should be disciplined, intellect should be aware. It should, take cognizance of the evidence, material evidence also. It is necessary, too, that she should correct the errors sometimes by return to the restraint of sensible fact, the concrete realities of the physical world. Because then only the new age that is coming, where the spirituality can be recognized, that spirituality, if we do not have the disciplined intellect, then what will happen is that it will mix with just like in the 11th or 12th century, with the religion, with the superstitions, and then it will mix with the hazy substance. So in order to understand pure spirituality, it is necessary to have the austerity of the intellect, the tapasya of the intellect, the touch of earth. Now Sri Aurobindo is here, giving us a very profound truth of the materialistic age. And from the another point of view also, the matter is most important. The touch of earth is always reinvigorating to the son of earth. Even when we seek a supraphysical knowledge, it may even be said that the supraphysical can only be really mastered in its feet firmly on the physical. Earth is our footing. Prithvi Pajasyam, this is from the Upanishad, says the Upanishad, wherever it images the self that manifests in the universe. What here Sri Aurobindo is indicating is that this spirituality must be manifested on the material universe. So ultimately, what Prakriti, what the divine is doing is, through matter, spirit expresses itself. And through matter, the spirit must express itself thoroughly. And that is what is the ultimate goal. of saying that earth is footing. So body is given for that purpose. The body is given so that in the body itself, we bring down the power of the spirit, the light of the spirit, and make our body also participate in the spirit, the experience of the spirit. So that is what Sharad is indicating here, that the matter is also a fit instrument for expressing the spirit. It is certainly the fact that the wider we extend and the surer we make our knowledge on the physical world, the wider and super becomes our foundation for the higher knowledge, even for the highest, even for the Brahma Vidya. So this is what again Sharad says, that when we become wider, when we enlarge our domain of materialism, then we can express spirit in a wider way, and that can have a better foundation for the higher knowledge, even for the highest, the Brahma Vidya, because ultimately, in Sri Aurobindo's view, the spirit must express from the highest point of view through matter, through body, and that is what is indicated here. In our world, error is continually the handmaid of and pathfinder of truth. Here, this is a general statement that error is often a starting point for the knowledge to be gained. In our world, error is continually the handmaid and pathfinder of truth. For error is really a half-truth that stumbles because of its limitations. Even it is truth that wears a disguise in order to arrive unobserved near to its goal. So error is only a starting point for knowledge, and through error, the knowledge can come. So our error of the materialistic viewpoint can also give us ultimately a right truth further. When we speak of it, the Brahman, as unknowable, we mean really that it escapes the grasp of our thought and speech. Mind and thought, the thought and the speech cannot express it. Upanishad says, instruments which proceed always by the sense of difference and express by the way of definition and differentiation. But if not unknowable by thought, it is attainable by a supreme effort of consciousness. It is the consciousness which can, by identification, all knowledge are ultimately the knowledge by identity. And so, if we cannot know it by mind and speech, we can know it by identifying ourselves with the spirit. We can know it unknowable. Fundamentally, all possible knowledge is knowledge within the materialism is in its very soul is a search for knowledge. It will unable to cry a halt, because modern materialism is based upon scientific discovery, and science always is in search of knowledge. So it is always in search of knowledge. So it will not halt at any point. It will go on expanding its own domain, its own boundary, barriers of the sense knowledge and of the reasoning for sense knowledge. Its very rush will carry it beyond, and the rapidity and sureness with which it has embraced the visible universe is only an earnest of the energy and success with which we may hope to see repeated in the conquest of what lies beyond, once the stride is taken that crosses the barrier. Once science goes from the material universe to the subtle domain, subtle universe, it will find out the truth behind the material universe, and it will expand its own boundaries. We see already that advance in its obscure beginnings. Now it is beginning to be recognized that there are forces in the world which are not restricted to material universe. We can have some more kind of subtle forces working in us. That Vedantic expression which describes things in the cosmos as one seed arranged by universal energy in multitudinous forms. Vedanta says that ekena vignate sarvam vignatam bhavati. There is a seed in the world which is the Brahman, and from this seed everything sprouts, multiplicity comes from that, and that universal energy expresses itself in multitudinous forms. Matter expresses itself eventually as a formulation of some unknown force. We know that matter is formed of electrons and protons and all that, and electrons and protons is nothing else but a manifestation of a material energy. So matter expresses itself continually as a formulation of some unknown force, that is inconscient force. Life too, that yet unfathomed mystery, begins to reveal itself as an obscure energy of sensibility imprisoned in its material formulation. Life extends, actually, life is in our own domain. It is the combination of the workings of mind, body, and vital. But life extends itself into the other domain, and where it expresses itself as light. And when the dividing ignorance is cured, which gives us the sense of a gulf between life and matter, it is difficult to suppose that mind, life, and matter will be found to be anything else than one energy, triply formulated, the triple word of the Vedic seers, Buhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha. So Buhu is matter, Bhuvaha is life, and Swaha is matter. So Swaha is mind. And so this is one energy which expresses itself in the matter, that the same energy expresses itself in life. So these are the three domains of the energy, or triply formulated energies of the world. The energy that creates the world can be nothing else than a will. We know that there is an order in the universe. In everything in the material universe, there is an order. Now, order presupposes a cause and effect. What we see is a result, the effect of the cause, but the cause gives us the idea that there is an order, and this order presupposes some intelligence behind it. And that intelligence is nothing else but energy working out in a will. So that is a will, and will is only continuous applying, consciousness applying itself to a work and a result. What is that work and result if not a self-involution of consciousness in form, self-involution of consciousness in material form, then slowly increasing the consciousness in vital and more so in the mind. So consciousness in form and a self-evolution out of form so as to actualize some mighty possibility in the universe which it has created. So it is the gradual or successive application of the more and more power of life, more and power of consciousness that is being witnessed in the evolution on the material domain, material world. And so if that goes on continuously, and that possibility is that ultimately the supermind can express itself in the body and the Satchidananda consciousness can express itself in the body, then the ultimate goal of what is its will in the man, if not a will to unending life and unbounded knowledge, unfettered power, Satchidananda, omniscient and omnipotence, and these things are to be expressed in a material domain. Yet even if we had full knowledge and control of the worlds immediately above matter, there should still be still be a limitation and still beyond. The last knot of our bondage is at that point where the external draws in oneness with the internal machinery of ego utilized to the vanishing point, and the law of our action is at last unity embracing and possessing multiplicity, and no longer as now multiplicity is struggling towards some figure of unity. So ultimately, what is going to happen is that through multiplicity, we try to realize the unity, and that unity will be realized, not that the multiplicity is struggling towards some figure of unity, but that ultimately will be realized. There is the central throne of cosmic knowledge. There, when we realize the unity, it is in the universe, the cosmic consciousness, that we realize ourselves, realize our unity. So there is the central throne of the cosmic knowledge or cosmic consciousness, looking out at our widest domain. What is this but the God in man, the infinite identity, the multitudinous unit, the omniscient, the omnipotent, who having made man in his own image, with the ego as a center of working, with the race, the collective Narayana, the Vishwamanava, as the mold and circumscription, seeks to express in them some image of the unity, omniscience, omnipotence, which are the self-conception of the divine. That which is immortal in mortals is a God, and established inwardly as an energy working out in our divine powers. There the empire of oneself with the empire of the world, one's world. There the life in the eternally consummate being and the realization of his divine nature in our human existence. So what Sri Aurobindo is saying here is that the materialist denial is facile. It has its own of the knowledge, that its thirst for knowledge can expand the materialist denial, and ultimately it will come to the cosmic consciousness through multiplicity. It will come to the unity and to the cosmic consciousness, and in the cosmic consciousness we discover the ultimate goal of our being. And so the materialist denial is facile, is temporary, and it will come to a fruition some point. Now we come to the refusal of the ascetic. If the materialist is justified from his point of view, also is a sannyasi, enamored of the beyond, justified from his point of view in insisting on pure spirit as the reality. Pure spirit he wants, the Paratpara, Tat Brahma, Sad Brahma, that is what he wants, the static Brahman he wants. And in static Brahman, he rejoices itself, he takes delight in that. The vulgar error of our corporeal organs that would condemn the supersensible has little justification. Now, materialist people do not accept this as the reality because they cannot understand this. The vulgar error of our corporeal organs, our material organs, that would condemn the supersensible has little justification. If evidence and experience are at all a taste of truth, there are also senses which are supraphysical that cannot of the realities of the material world without the aid of the corporeal sense organs, but can bring us into contact with other realities, supraphysical and belonging to another world, constantly asserted by human experience and belief. Since the origin of thought, these truths, now that the necessity of an exclusive preoccupation with the secrets of the material world no longer exists, begins to be justified by newborn forms of scientific research. So science is now coming to the understanding that the world beyond are already there and they have their own laws and they can express themselves in the material universe without the aid of the material universe. So there are senses, and these senses take cognizance of the material phenomena without the instrumentation of senses. The worlds beyond exist. They have their self-existence laws and mighty energies. The worlds beyond means the world of vital world, the mental world, the supraphysical worlds, all those worlds do exist and they have their own self-formulation laws, self-formulated laws. And these laws are independent of the material world. Their laws can establish a communication with the material universe, and that these laws, when they manifest themselves on the material universe, are responsible for, this manifestation is responsible for the evolution on earth. The worlds beyond exist. They have their self-existent laws and mighty energies. And here on our physical existence, they exercise their influences, organize their means of manifestation, and commission their messengers and their witnesses. And that is responsible for the evolution on earth. The evolution on earth, the evolution of life from matter, of mind from life, and further evolution of supermind from mind, they are the manifestations of the worlds beyond. They organize them, their world, their powers on the world. They manifest them here on this world. But the worlds are only frames of our experience. The senses only instruments of experience and conveniences. Consciousness is the great underlying fact, the universal witness for whom the world is a field, the senses instruments. We have seen earlier that consciousness is the main thing, and this consciousness expresses itself as Sachidananda, as supermind, as mind, as life, and behind the body also, behind the material universe also. It is the consciousness, secret consciousness which is working, and the material universe is also a product of the working of this force of consciousness. Only by extension in the field of our consciousness or an unhoped for increase in our instruments of knowledge can an ancient quarrel be decided. Ancient quarrel between the life, between the spirit and the matter can be decided. The extension of our consciousness to be satisfying must necessarily be an inner enlargement from the individual into the cosmic existence. So consciousness, awareness, this awareness, we are only aware of our working in our body. But when we expand our awareness, when we expand our consciousness, we try to become conscious around us. And that, if we enlarge it sufficiently, we can become the, identified with the cosmic consciousness, cosmic existence. The possibility of a cosmic existence in humanity is coming slowly to be admitted in modern psychology. In the psychology of the East, it has always been recognized as a reality and the aim of our subjective progress. The existence expresses itself in three layers. First is the hidden consciousness in human being, or the bodies in the material universe. Then second is the universal consciousness. And the third is the supramental consciousness, the transcendent consciousness beyond the universe. So he's talking now, right now, of the consciousness of the universe, recognized as a reality and aim of our subjective progress. Nor do we become merely conscious of the cosmic existence, but in it, we live as we lived before in the ego sense, more and more in contact, even unified with other minds, other lives, other bodies than the organism we call ourselves. This is a special kind of an achievement of the integral yoga. Normally, in our traditional spirituality, when we talk about the cosmic consciousness, we become one in our spirit with the cosmic spirit, but not necessarily that we should take cognizance of the multitudinous mind forces that are existing in the universe, not necessarily the multitudinous life forces that are existing in the universe in different manifestations. So it is the speciality, because here we want to express the spirit in matter and transform the matter, and therefore universal consciousness or the cosmic consciousness not only should have its own experience at the cosmic level, but it should take cognizance of the cosmic mind, the cosmic vital, and the cosmic physical also. That is what Sri Aurobindo is indicating here. Nor do we become merely conscious of the cosmic existence, but in it we live as we lived before in the ego sense, more and more in contact, even unified with other minds, other lives, other bodies than the organism we call ourselves. So residing in our own body, residing in our own being, we can come in contact or identify ourselves with other minds, multitudinous of minds, other lives and other bodies. Beyond the cosmic consciousness, we can enter into the world transcending consciousness. So what Sri Aurobindo is trying to, thematically or step by step leading us to is that where is the crux of the experience of the ascetic? When we say ascetic is refusing the world, we are starting from the world and moving towards the cosmic consciousness. And from cosmic consciousness, we are going to the transcendent consciousness. And that transcendent consciousness, when we recognize that only, there the ascetic takes its delight, and therefore it refuses, he is enamored of the beyond. The question repeats itself, whether this transcendence is necessarily also a rejection. What relation has this universe to the beyond? When the mind passes into it suddenly, without transitions, it receives a sense of the unreality of the world and the sole reality of the silence, which is one of the most powerful and convincing experiences of which the human mind is capable. We have the starting point of a second negation, the refusal of the ascetic. So the sannyasin transcends himself from the senses, from the life, transcends itself from this life through mind. It goes into the silence. Mind is completely sort of absorbed into the Brahman. So mind loses its own identity. And when ultimately it is mind who is recognizing the universe, mind is taking cognizance of the universe. If the mind does not exist, what happens is that universe does not exist for that mind, because mind is now absorbed in the ananda of the Brahman, and therefore they have a sense of unreality of the world as long as they remain in the Brahman, in the delight of the Brahman. So that is where the refusal of the ascetic has its own root. It is this revolt of the spirit against matter that for 2000 years has dominated the Indian mind. Not that is the whole of Indian thought, because there are other philosophies, Vishishtadvaita and other philosophies that take cognizance of the universe as universe, they take as real. But through many centuries, a great army of saints and teachers have borne always the same witness and swelled the same lofty and distant appeal, renunciation, the sole path of knowledge, the call of the spirit, the recoil from matter. So that is where the crux of the material, the denial of this ascetic resides, because it takes delight in the far beyond, in this transcendent consciousness. For the age out of the sympathy with the ascetic spirit, now, Sri Aurobindo says that modern age is out of sympathy with the ascetic spirit. It is easy to attribute this to the failing of vital energy in the ancient race. People say that it is because through the Middle Ages, we have lost control of our vital energy because of our otherworldly kind of enamoring. And that is why we lost our contact with the material world and thought that this is not true. The material world is not true. But we have seen that it corresponds to a truth of existence. As we have seen now, as we have seen how greatly materialism has served the ends of the divine, because it gives us the clean sweep of the superstition or accretions of the spirituality. And through reason, we accept the pure spirituality. So the materialism has done a great service to the march of humanity. So also we must acknowledge the still greater service rendered by asceticism to life. The asceticism has given the first delight in the spirit. It has transcended itself. Sri Aurobindo says that it is a leap. It is a great leap from the materialism to the spiritual, to the static Brahman that has been achieved without the intervening steps of progress. So that has done a great service rendered by asceticism to life. In our completer affirmation, we must not minimize the part of the spiritual impulse. The spiritual impulse also must be there, and in a certain sense, we can say that an asceticism or ascetic spirit is necessary to complete our enjoyment of this world. So both should be, as the Gita says, the sannyasa and the works in the world, both should be combined together. And that is how we can achieve this kind of thing. So Sri Aurobindo here describes the service that this spiritualism or the ascetic spirit has rendered to mankind. So I think we have come to our end of the survey of these two chapters of the denial of the materialist and the denial of the ascetics. If anybody has any question, you are all welcome. We can clarify or discuss on that.
Thank you, sir. Please raise your hand if you have any question, or maybe it's a time also. So I have a question, but I would request you to respond me in the next session, because it's like we have almost 1 hour we have covered. But one question that is, Sri Aurobindo talks about mind must seek reconciliation between spirit and matter. And he guides us that it needs to test each assertion separately. So how does, we can test separately? Because if spirit is there in the matter, why we need to test it separately, one, and how? So this is my question. So I don't know whether it can be answered briefly, sir, because it was like...
Yeah, I can answer that question. What Sri Aurobindo is trying to say is that in life, matter and spirit are both mingled together. But in our thought, we should understand why there was a ascetic spirit or the refusal of the ascetic, and why materialism denied the spirit. So that can be cognized, or that can be understood only we test them separately. We go on that single line and try to find out as to why they neglected the spirit, the European people, and why India neglected the matter. So these can be understood. This can be understood if we test them separately, if we examine them separately. So in our thought, in order to have a reconciliation of the two, we must have their own say first as to why they are separate and why they are antagonistic to a integral reconciliation. So we should understand, to understand those things, we should go on a separate line and test them separately, examine them separately.
I think I got the response. Only thing is how to test them separately.
No, test in our thought, not
test in thoughts. Okay.
Test in our thought, not in live. In live, everything is mingled. Everything is. Yeah.
Yes. I think, sir, every time each chapter gives me, test me rather, to ponder over each line of the chapter, because the first reading gives little, idea that what actually Sri Aurobindo says, and when you bring out your, views on chapters, I think it gives in-depth understanding, but it leads to it leads us to ponder more over the subject. Let's say, for example, the materialist negation denies spirit and affirms that only matter or force is real. So, it is a total one school. One can discuss about that, that spirit is not there. And then we bring Vedantas. So it needs deeper study for that. Second thing is it is always in search of knowledge. I don't know. This is what just I'm getting. The core of materialism is the search of the knowledge, and matter expresses itself eventually in the force. So this is what just I'm getting from your discussion or your talk. The second thing, let's come to the ascetic denial. Is the ascetic insists on pure spirit as the sole reality and free from change or death, in which Sri talks about three things, basically suprasensitive reality and cosmic consciousness, and transcendental consciousness. Now, these three things are not easy to understand immediately in one go. I think what I do and what I would suggest, that if you are really want to understand, let us go deeper and bring out lots of questions in it, whatever raise in your mind, and we will discuss again with sir. If you have some question, please post me. I'll recommend that post me, and we'll get together and then we'll post it to sir. I think it needs lots of time to digest and pondering over the ideas. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us and guiding us. I'm sure that this journey will be very fruitful to all of us.
As we go on, things will become clearer and clearer, because Sri Aurobindo's understanding is, as we said in the first lecture, first presentation, that Sri Aurobindo is writing or presenting himself as if he were standing among the stars, standing among the constellations, and viewing things from there. Wow. So it takes little time to delve into it a little bit. But as we go on, I think it will be slowly it will become clear. It takes time to digest all these things.
Right. I think, yes, we are so much dependent on our senses that unless and until we don't see, we do not believe. So I think that is also, he told in the beginning itself, that seeing is the believing. That is why we are limiting ourselves. But thank you so much, sir, for being with us. I think
now you should say that now have a pause, and we will notify when we will begin.
So yes, Diwali break is also there. So we will certainly communicate to you that when our next session will be, which will be on reality omnipresent. Looking forward to seeing you all again. Once you will get notification, we will be looking forward to see you. Sir, thank you so much on behalf of CLC Oro University. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.